I never had to see it though.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and call this Amherst County Service Authority Board meeting to order. Let the record reflect that it's February 2nd, 2021. We'll go ahead and open up citizen comments. Seeing no citizens, we'll go ahead and close the comments and we'll go to the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion's on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This mask is fun. Approval of the minutes for January 5th, 2021. Are there any changes that need to be made? Any errors that were?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that Mr. Popovich was the attorney attending last month's meeting and not Mr. Lofton.
That would be correct.
Correct. Okay. The assistant county attorney was there.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes amended with showing Mr. Popovich as the opinion attorney.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next, we'll go ahead and go to Mr. Hopkins for our monthly financial report for December 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. If you all can't understand me, visit this thing, let me know. I'll try to do some of that. Hope you all well. Okay, diving right in, this is for December 2020, it's the last report for 2020. If you look at the staff report, you'll see that for through December 2020 compared to the December 2019, sales were actually, let's forget about the VDOT reimbursements. We're almost $100,000 or about 3.25% better than 2019. And that did not include the money that we got from the state for the customer arrearages that we'll be talking about later on. If you throw that in, that was over $30,000. And if you throw that in, that 3.21% after 4.25. Total revenues were about just under $700,000, or 20% better than 2019. If you take it, if you want to take the reimbursements, the VDOT reimbursements out of that, you'll actually see a drop. Last month, we were showing about $124,000 ahead of the previous year. Now that for December, we're actually almost $50,000 in the hole. That is due to, for the members who are on the board at December of last year, you recall that we got the supervisors to pay for the Phelps Road School tap fees and water line extension. That was $336,000, almost $337,000. That, of course, we're not matching in December of this year, so that's the drop. We just don't have anything to compare to that. Same thing with connections. We were doing real well with connections as of through last month, but we're now about 11.25% on the whole for the same reason. Phelps Road School had 41 water connections, and that was a heck of an availability fee. And again, in December, we just didn't have anything to match that. Wastewater. It's pretty much continuing what we've been talking about for the last several months, is that it's lagging behind, not doing as well as water. We talked about this at the last board meeting as why that might be, and there were some discussions thrown out, some possible solutions. I followed that up with an email the next day after the board meeting as to why I thought it was, and I've got a couple comments back from board members that seem to think that was they agreed with me. Connections, the same thing. We had 41 connections last December for Phelps Road School, and we can't match that this month, so we're just not doing as well in connections at the end of the year. If you're looking at the report, you'll see about 8 lines that have asterisks at the end of them. They refer to the footnote down at the bottom. And what I'm saying down there is that, and we just talked about Phelps Road School, the $337,000 that we got in December of last year, that you got to take into mind. That's what we're comparing to. And also the $172,000 for the county's sanitary sewer contributions for sewer extensions. That was not made in 2020, but it was made in 2019. And if you consider that well over $500,000 that we are short compared to those two things this month, this year as compared to last year, throw in COVID, I personally think we had a pretty darn good year this year. We finished everything's in the black except for wastewater revenues, and I think we've had a pretty good year, all things considered. Questions or comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of thoughts, and just looking through this, I think the big takeaway is you look at your water sales and you look at your wastewater sales. Your wastewater sales are down 5%. I read that for the year, basically, because we're through our final month of the year. And our water sales are up 3%. So basically, our operating income and our operating revenues are okay with the declining wastewater sales. The reimbursements are really other income.
That's correct.
So that's not an operational thing. So I think on the operating point, we're all right. I've got a quick question about credit card fees. I was just looking at for kind of an end of the year tabulation on what we've spent for credit card fees. There's on our revenues, we've got the revenues for the year are up about $5,000 or so. Total of about $28.6 thousand. That's a small number, sorry. $28,600. And what are our fees associated with that? Our expenses associated with that?
I don't have a figure in front of me, but I'll be glad to get it for you.
Well, so I was looking down through our vendors on the list, and I wasn't sure. I'm sure this is going to be a customer accounting and administration fee, so it's going to be under under one of those, whatever quill is, or something like that. And then I think it points why as opposed to having your expenses laid out by vendor necessarily, unless there's a reason we have to approve all the expenses by vendor, and having it in accounts as opposed to vendors may be helpful. So you can see that. But that's something that we could, of course, talk about as we're talking about furthering or improving the profit and loss statements. So from a policy perspective, let me ask this, are the credit card fees that we charge as revenue, are those supposed to be strictly offsetting or offsetting plus a certain amount? Or are we losing money on the fees?
I think they're pretty much, it's just a direct offset. Whatever the bank charges us, we charge. I don't think we're making or losing money on it.
Well, that'd be nice to know how that came out for the year. That's the other question, sorry.
Yeah, just so I understand, you were talking about expenditures, number 2, expenditures, the water department, you're talking about the, like AT&T, and then there's allied security systems and so forth? No?
Yeah, all those vendors?
Yeah, well, in the past, sometimes, being on the board previous years, some of these things, you'll get these, line items, and you're like, well, what is this for? How come we're spending $8,000 to whoever it may be? And though we can directly ask Mr. Hopkins on what that is, whether or not we should do it like this or not, but that's one of the things that used to happen quite frequently, especially when we had a gentleman named Mr. Campbell on the board. This predates Mr. Hopkins' time. So it was just a way for the board members to see who we were paying the money to and what it was for if we had questions on it. Whether, we changed it or not, that's fine, but that was basically why I've been set up like that from my understanding. That's correct.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I certainly understand that, but I guess my suggestion would be, instead of seeing 4 separate payments for Appalachian Power for the pump stations, to our electrical payment for the month would be X. But I'll defer to the preference of the board.
Oh, yeah. I don't have a preference, just as long as we can see, what those are and where they're going to. That's kind of a good explanation, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And that would not be a problem. I could certainly do that, or we could certainly do that with the combined vendors like that. Well, the thing with Appalachian Power, we actually get, it's like 2 dozen bills.
I'm sure.
Because every different site, every different installation we have has its own meter and its own bill. I keep wanting to go back to Appalachian Power, so why don't you just send us one bill? Combine it all into one bill, it's gonna save you all a ton of postage and a lot of administration costs, but they won't do it.
But I've done some aggregating like that for larger corporations. We're not quite to that size, I don't think, to get a real benefit from it. But I'm not asking you to make that change right now. I think that any change like this would be part of a broader P&L statement update. So don't worry about making any changes for the next or for any immediate reports.
Okay. Anything else?
All right. Well, if there are no reports, we'll go ahead and go on to our next line item, which is old business, staff reports.
Okay. First item is the James River Bank stabilization. There hasn't been any, I haven't been down since the snow, but before the snow, there wasn't any major change or really any change to the severity of the problem. I do now have a base sheet for design and permitting, and I'm going to start working with Herb Profit on getting that area between the 2 ravines stabilized and armored. Herb Profit continues to work on the nationwide permit. We're continuing to stockpile construction debris down at the pump station for work in this, and I have not yet heard on the construction rental application. Going to water and sewer rehabilitations and other projects. Planning on getting back on, we've been off of the Woodview water main replacement for quite a while because of the easements, not wanting to bother people during COVID. I'm planning on getting back on that again in April, as I would like to do that project this year. The American Legion Hall sanitary sewer extension is the same thing. I want to get back with the various property owners about the easements, try to get them taken care of. I'm still trying to get an answer from the Department of Health on the grant application, and I'm hoping to get that project done this summer. That's phase one of the American Legion Hall. Under Old Madison Sewage Pump Station upgrade, I put nothing new since last board meeting, but I heard late last week that we actually did replace a failed pump. And Richard and I are talking to Glenn about trying to set up a standardization of our pumps so we can start having pumps on the shelf. Old Madison actually it's a duplex pump station that only had one pump in it for a while we were getting it repaired. And I want to start having pumps stockpiled somewhere so we can take one out and not be repaired and put another one in while that's taking place. VDOT Woods Lake Road, that project is now.
Mr. Hopkins, can I ask a question on
Yes.
this? There are site improvements there that were tabled until 2021. What are those site improvements and when do you expect those to happen?
I'm still hoping to do that this summer, but we've got the road going down to Old Madison is a broken up paved gravel road. It's on a very steep slope. And it's in really bad shape. The security fence is not in good condition. The controls and equipment are they're sitting on a pole outside of the pump station with no protection from the weather or anything. I'm going to get that taken care of. We also have, I'd have to go back and look at the report. I've got 7 different lift stations to look at, but well, Richard,
that's enough. I think that's enough detail for what I was asking. So why don't we put in that until, you said July or August 2021?
That's what I'm planning, yes.
All right, so why don't we add that in so that's got something tangible now? Is that the lift station that's right now next to the expressway or business?
Yes.
Current business 29 down the hole?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one at the workshop you pointed out. So what the heck is this one? What's going way down here? Okay. Woods Lake Road, that project is now complete. Everybody, the service authority, VDOT, Herd and Profit contractor, and all the residents out there all seem satisfied with the work. In December, we invoiced VDOT twice, one for about $95,000, one for over $177,000. The first has been paid, and in new business will be appropriate. I'm going to ask you all to appropriate that into the budget. And the second goes beyond a VDOT. VDOT has a policy that once you get to a project level of 90%, the last 10% all has to be done in one total bill. So we won't be able to do that until we get the final contractor pay invoice. We do have one that we've just turned in for over $234,000. I'm expecting at least, hopefully, just one more. That would be for the retainage. And then we'd be able to get a final project going. But not counting this last one, we've invoiced VDOT over $1,018,000. VDOT has processed and reimbursed us over $841,000. And by the time we get this done, I'm anticipating that the final cost to VDOT will be about $1.1 million and about $300,000 cents. Phelps Road School, the firewall issues are about 99.99% complete. Everything is connected. We've done all our work. The last thing we're waiting on is the results from the bacteriological sample and test, which we were hoping to get last week. We should get this week, and then that work will be all complete. The BC Mobile Home Park, you all have been kept up to date. As of yesterday, the General Assembly Budget Subcommittee was supposed to discuss this. I heard about midday yesterday that got postponed from the weather that came from Delegate Walker's office. I haven't heard yet as to when it's going to be rescheduled, but hopefully if it gets out of subcommittee, it goes to budget committee.
I found it very curious to see how weather would delay a remote meeting.
That's what Chris told me.
Interesting, since they're all meeting remotely.
Okay, well, I sent emails to all the subcommittee members on January 26th and also forwarded the information to board members, the Lee family, and the mobile home park residents. And I trust everybody has followed up and also sent emails to the subcommittee members because I'd really like to inundate them with requests for this. And of course, that process will be repeated if it goes to committee. Questions? Grand Creek Reservoir Project, Herd and Profit is working on survey and design. Actually, they finished the survey, I believe. They're working on the design. We've gotten the first invoice submitted for payment and reimbursement from the bond loan. First replace sanitary sewer extension, like the Woodview water line work. I want to get back on this about the easements this month and see if we can get that project going for Habitat for Humanity. Westvale Port sanitary sewer extension, similarly, I need to.
Mr. Hopkins, can I stop you there? Are they paying for their, the extension to the sewers? I mean, are they paying for it, or are we gonna?
No, that came up several months ago. We were gonna do that under the.
What, I remember they came up through us, but we never, I mean, I didn't think anybody on the board said we're gonna go ahead and eat that cost.
No, we haven't yet. That it was decided at the time that I was gonna go back and talk to the owners. The first obstacle was to be able to make sure we could get the easements from the homeowners. If we can't get the easements, it's a dead dog project.
Yeah, but I don't think we should be in the business of subsidizing sewer regardless who it's for. I mean, if it was someone else and they weren't under that, they would have to pay that cost.
Well, this was also, there was a secondary purpose there, is that we would not only be able to pick up the 3 lots that Habitat was gonna be developed, but 10 or 12 additional lots that are currently on drain fields. So this would be part of the county service authority sanitary sewer extension for drain fields.
And then that runs down to a small little sewer system that's not connected to the main system, correct?
But
It goes right to the creek there. I thought one of the issues we looked at in the past was somehow getting that area back onto the main system going over to Lynchburg, as opposed to operating this little small system on the creek down there.
yeah, that is correct. We're gonna be I'm working on a project, hopefully with a DEQ grant, that we will not only replace the wastewater treatment plant with a pump station, but also extend sewers throughout that area. And we'd be pumping it up to a manhole up on Route 29. And from there, we would go all the way down to Williams Run and then to the city plant. But that's probably 5-10 years down the road. Westvale Courts, I'm working, haven't heard back from the developer yet about the funding to get this project started. I also need to get with Mr. Lockerbie on the developer agreement, and I guess what I'll do is draft something up like this month and get it to you for your comment.
All I really need is deal points, and I'll put the rest together, but I do need the deal points to get down pretty well.
All right. So hopefully we can bring that to the board maybe, and hopefully at the March meeting for approval. Excuse me. That's another truck. Okay, at the workshop, a board member brought up the EDA Business Friendliness Initiative, and it was very timely because I had just done quite a bit of work on several of these things and sent it to Mr. Lockerbie for review. But I thought we'd go through and just talk about all these things, see where we are. In your board packet, you've got a copy of the prioritization schedule for all the service authority action items. If you look all the way over the right-hand column, that's the actual prioritization of all these things. Item 1A is that will be done with our annual water and sewer rates and fees evaluation, which should be done in April. Item 1B, we'll be talking about that briefly in new business, but I've gone through and drafted a change to the county code to address this, sent it to Mr. Lockerbie, and we're talking about it. Similarly, 1C, the payment of high availability fees over several years. Mr. Lockerbie is looking at a draft of code change to address that. Item 1D, and I'm not really sure why I didn't pick up on this when it came out, but I'm not really sure how we would grant availability fee reductions because they're in the code. I mean, as Mr. Martin's commented several times, they have to be paid. No matter whether we're getting grants or somewhere else, there's still fees that have to be assessed and paid. So I'm wondering if I'll keep talking with Mr. Lockerbie about this, but I'm thinking that 1D may want to just be taken off the list. I haven't gotten too much further on item 2, the upgrade of communications. I am still working on the website, haven't been able to do too much on it. Item 3, the clear policy about when we would, service authority would extend water, our crews would extend water and sewer lines. That will also be something that will be part of the county code change. The strategic plan, that's item 4, the strategic plan for the aggressive development. I'm still scratching my head over that one, and I think that's something that I'm going to want to get input from the board and maybe also the EDA as to how we want to address that. Item 5, the board of directors reorganization, that is done, and item 6, we've been talking about the water office bill. So that's where we are on business friendliness initiative action items that were assigned to ACSA. So,
Mr. Hopkins, you mentioned the website. Who are you working with on the website?
a consultant.
The one that the EDA used?
No.
One that you have picked?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, we haven't gotten very far on it, but I am working with something. Okay, item 4 is the COVID-19. First item is the municipal utility relief program. In early December, we were awarded almost $27,000 from the state. At that time, they had a deadline of January 29th to return any unused money. And from my conversations with the finance director, she wanted at least a week to be able to return any unused money. So she wanted us to let us know about that. She wanted us to let her know about that by January 22nd. So I established a January 15th deadline for applications to be submitted. As of that date, we had 14 applications received, totaling less than $7,000, and I'd already decided I was not going to send back any of this money. So I spent the entire holiday weekend making phone calls, and I called. We had 90 people on our list of installment payment plan customers, and I must have made 300 or 400 phone calls that weekend. By the following Tuesday, at the end of the day, we had 40 applications totaling over $18,000, and by Wednesday, we had 62 applications for enough money that we didn't have to send any money back. So we got the full $26,915 from the state. I just got the check from the county finance director, who was operating as the fiscal agent for this a couple of days ago. We get to keep 5% of the money. It was about $1,345 for administration. The other $25,569 went to helping customers. We got 78 applications, 63 for installment plan customers. We helped 62 of the installment plan customers. One of them, the application came in after we closed the program. Out of the 62, we paid 45 overdue accounts in full, and the other 17, we paid off more than half of them. We also, as part of the program, collected an additional almost $4,200 from customers that wanted to put overdue payments to their payment plan. So we collected almost $31,100 in total to the program. In your board packet, you should see copies of 3 notices that we sent out to customers. PSA 6 was to the customers that we helped, to let them know how much we helped them. PSA 7 was to customers who submitted applications, but we were unable to help because the money ran out, letting them know that what I've heard is that there's more customer assistance money in the new federal stimulus plan. So please come in and get on installment payment plans, because if that money becomes available, we would probably address any new disbursements the same way. And PSA 8 was to customers that never bothered to submit applications. Anybody who had an overdue account, to tell them the same thing. Please come in and get on an installment payment plan, so that if we get this money, we'll be able to help you all out. And you also got a table, 2-page table in your packet, which shows everybody that we helped. Everybody in green are the people that we helped.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hopkins, I appreciate your hard work on that. The only comment I would have is wonder if it's appropriate to list the customers' names in this to the public on this program, whether we can just identify them by customer number. I'm not sure.
I agree with it. I had the same thought.
I'm not aware of that, I will not do that in the future.
I mean, it would be appropriate to make a motion or to do something by consensus saying we strike that from the report, from the record, so that it will not be included in that.
Redacted.
I don't know, I mean, what is legal, what is illegal, I mean, that'd be the question.
As far as it goes, I would think that a motion to strike it out of this package would be the thing to do. As far as minutes go, you know, Regina can take that by consensus, but for the public package, we ought to have the motion to take that out since it is a public document. Now, I should note to you, if somebody does come in and say, I want a FOIA list of all the people, then you have to give it to them, but you don't have to make it easy for them.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say something that I found it interesting, because over the years, we have got the list of names, and you see names that come across here, and you're really surprised sometimes who you see, people that own businesses and so forth, who they very well could be.
Sure, and if you want it, go ahead and ask Mr. Hawkins to give it to you, it just doesn't necessarily have to be available.
I understand the privacy deal there.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we redact the names from pages 35 and 36 of the mutual utility relief program.
Motion on the floor, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'll take care of that, thank you. And the last item, sorry, second last item is vaccinations. In the original CDC schedule, the water and wastewater workers were originally in phase 1B, and then we got dropped to phase 1C, or this industry got dropped to phase 1C, and I had already realized that the the vaccinations were already in phase 1A. It was ongoing, but it was going to be many, many months before phase 1C was activated. We would be able to get vaccinations. Then I heard from HealthWorks that there was a major shortage of vaccinations in Central Virginia. So that was going to be possibly additional several months before we were going to be able to get vaccinations. And I wasn't going to deal with that. So I started looking, found a health department office that they were using the Moderna vaccine, which has to be pretty substantially refrigerated and also has a shelf life. And they had a lot of holes in their schedule from people that they thought were going to come in and get vaccinated and just decided they didn't want to. So I talked to the lady over at the health department, and she offered slots for all 22 of our staff. And when I talked to staff, only 10 actually thought they would want to do it. And the day of, several of them just changed their minds and opted out. We did get all of the water office staff vaccinated on the 22nd. And the second shot for the Moderna vaccine we will get on February 19th. And the last item under old business, any questions on that? Last item under old business is just the board planning retreat, and I'm working on minutes, which will probably not be in the same detail as we do for board meeting minutes to do long, and I don't have the time to do it. So it'll be more of a abbreviated, and I'll get that to you as soon as I can.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question on what the COVID-19 money we received. Mr. Hopkins, how is that booked? Is that booked as revenue for January, or is that adjustments to accounts payable and the revenue was already booked?
I wanted to put it in December. Because the money was awarded to us in December, but they, because of the program lasting until mid-January, actually later in January, and the water office staff actually closed the finance books for the year before we could do it, so they'll come up in the January report.
Okay, so we actually, actual waters sold, no, that's just the difference between that invoicing amount and the cash received amount. So that's an indication how, I guess, an accrual method of accounting would give you a better picture of the actual results than the cash amount. But thank you. Okay.
All right, Mr. Hopkins, we're on to new business. We've got a reappropriation and we got appropriation, but I don't see any information under the reappropriation other than a request form.
You don't have a item report?
It should be.
I got a copy of it right here. I don't know what happened to it. Well, what it is, if you remember in December, we were talking about the Woody's Lake Road project and the service authority's portion of the cost of, the service authority's cost share for the work to extend the water line up to a connection to the Route 29 water main. And I got you all to agree to a board transfer of $325,000 from a sewer line that was, the money was not going to be used to pay for the customer, the contractor pay request that I was expecting in December. It turns out he didn't get it in until January. So you all agreed and did the board transfer, but now that money with the close of the year has gone back into reserves, and I need to get it reappropriated back into the current budget so I can pay the contractor pay request.
All right. Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the appropriation for to appropriate money from the reserves in accordance with the attached request. Do you want to give us a little back? Oh, this is the Wheelers. So this is another appropriation, right, Mr.
Yeah,
Hopkins?
this is another VDOT reimbursement appropriation from reserves, because they pay them by electronic deposit, goes into our reserves, and I've got to get it moved into the budget. It's for $94,886.25, and that was paid in December.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and make the motion that the ACSA board appropriate money from the ACSA reserves in accordance with the attached request form. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the proposed county code changes.
I briefly mentioned this a few minutes ago. I'm working with Mr. Lockley on this. He's given me several comments back. I think for the most part, he's relatively okay with them, but there are some, we're still talking about them. But I wanted to let you all know this was coming up. I mean, I'm not asking for a motion now. It has to go to, these are county code changes, they've got to be done in ordinance. So what I'm proposing, we'll go through these just briefly now, but they probably come back maybe at the March meeting with a request to pass an ordinance. Section 15-76 is pretty self-explanatory. Under 15-121, the big change there is changing the term in the description for availability fee from system capacity to average daily water usage. Average daily water usage is typically the way to do it, and using system capacity, there can be a major difference between system capacity for a water connection and how much water they're actually planning on using. And the W4 car wash is a perfect example. Their range of water use is anywhere from 2,000 to 13,000 gallons, which results in availability fee range of less than 60,000 to almost 350,000. But they're only planning on using more than the 2,000 gallons a day when their water reuse system is out, either it failed or is out to maintenance. So 99% of the time, they're going to be using about 2,000 gallons a day. By county code, though, the capacity of the system would be the 15,000 gallons a day. And it's just totally unfair to them, so I'll be proposing that we make that change. Next one is under 15-129 is the extension or being able to pay these high availability fees over several years. I'm talking with Mr. Lockley about that. He's had a comment that he thinks we need to get security for that, and that's something he and I are going to keep working on. But I want to let you know that W4 Car Wash is amenable to this, that they really like the idea and they really appreciate it. So that will be coming up soon.
Well, that would be like, your concern would be a company, you laid out a payment plan for them and they go bankrupt or bust and they never pay their bills. And so I don't like the idea unless you can somehow, you said a surety or a bond or something like that.
Probably a letter of credit or a cash escrow or something along those lines, yeah.
Okay.
Although if they had a cash escrow, they probably wouldn't do it, but a letter of credit you can get for 2% a year, which is a great rate to borrow money from the asset effectively.
Right. As long as we're covered, because I could see, this really, if something happened, we could really be in the hole and on the hook for large amounts of availability fees if they're not paid upfront like they have been.
So it depends on the project.
Mhm.
I totally
And I
agree
think
with
it
you.
might
Like,
depend on the project.
yeah, but if it comes to the we actually take in debt service or take money out of reserves to actually construct new infrastructure to serve this, I absolutely agree with that. But like the car wash is in the middle of Madison Heights. They're connecting to existing water and sewer infrastructure. I mean, this is, and the infrastructure's already there, it's been there many years, we're already operating and maintaining it. This is like icing on the cake to get money from that.
All right, what about residential houses that are in a neighborhood and you already have infrastructure there, but yet they're gonna pull off that infrastructure that's already there? You know what I mean? I mean, you're doing it for the business, I understand that, but there's cases of that all over the place where someone builds a house with an existing water line, they pay the full availability fees and all of that as well. Although the cost is not as much, that household is incurring that debt. So I'd just be careful, because I've actually had complaints about that, saying that we extended the water line and then somebody paid to extend the water line, the house, down the road, and yet someone hooked onto it up the street, but they still had to pay the whole availability fee. And I don't know, I guess you could get in trouble morally if you looked at it that way. You know, you're giving the guy a break on 29, but the residential household is not getting that break on the availability fees.
Okay, keep in mind, this would only be for high availability fees. This isn't gonna be for a single residential.
Mhm.
This is gonna be for like W4 Car Wash, even using the bottom end of their range for water use, their availability is gonna be almost $60,000. And what I proposed to them, or what I suggested to them, told them I would take it to the board, because you all haven't approved it yet, is that over the next 5 years, they would pay $1,000 a month toward that on top of their monthly water bill and their minimum.
Makes sense.
So, again, just for high water bills, and it would be almost exclusively business, it wouldn't be residential.
One thing that I might add would be that we should get some upfront fee more than $1,000, I think. Just because wherever they go, if they're gonna develop something, they're gonna have to pay something upfront. So if we collected maybe 30%, which wouldn't be necessarily high for that type of business, and then we can amortize the rest, at least that way we've got some assurance that we have, relatively decent pay down.
Good
That's
point.
just my thought.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, yeah, I totally agree. Because, I mean, a residential house, what's the tap fee, $1,500? You know,
1,500 for Connect and 3,000 for the other.
so, a large business ought to be able to front, whatever, maybe 30%, 25%.
Right.
Done.
All right.
Thank you. I'll get back in touch with them, but I can't see that being a real big issue. Going back to the W4 Car Wash, their pre-construction conference to start their construction is this next Monday. And so I did have, just wanted to ask some questions about these code changes. The reduction in the fee for the code change and the extension of the payment schedule, I don't think that can be done without changes to the code, can it? So we would need to do this within the next couple of months, put in the ordinance and get it done.
Yeah, the way that we've structured our code is that most, although not all, of AXA's regulations and internal policies that are important, let's say, get referred over to the board of supervisors, and the board of supervisors writes them into county code. So it's not just that AXA can put a lien on you or can otherwise, collect money from you if you violate it. It's actually a crime for violating it, which is, a nice thing to do. Most authorities that are single locality or only a couple of localities do that. There are two exceptions if we do, well, there's one exception, which is if we do a mandatory connection if we make changes to the mandatory connection. That's actually something that this board needs to adopt. It needs to be a resolution rather than a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, and then the Board of Supervisors actually just accedes to it, they just agree. But it's a pretty minor technical difference that we'll make clear when we cross that bridge.
Sorry. So again, what I'm planning on doing is working with Mr. Lockley the rest of this month, and hopefully bringing all these things, these changes to you as an ordinance at the March meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I've got some commentary, that's all right. I think we're moving a little fast on this. I understand the need for the business and getting that squared away. However, what you're proposing are a series of code changes that also have policy implications, and this board really hasn't had significant input on those policies. I think it'd be a much better presentation to basically develop a summary of the policy changes that you're recommending, and which would allow this board to provide input, just like Mr. Woods just did, just like Mr. Pugh just did, and then allow that input to formulate what the policy changes is, and then that formulates the code change. At that point, the code can be then run through the county attorney to make sure that we're not breaking any laws and that the language is right. But you just heard some pretty good suggestions for the changing of the code. And to be able to look at this in a much broader picture could help clean up other areas of the code. For instance, you're talking about changing the way that the availability fees are calculated. That's a pretty significant step. And I was also reading that, I wasn't quite sure, well, the language wasn't very clear to me. And that was some of the old language wasn't very clear to me. Described using the quotient of the average use to divided by the fee itself to determine what the availability fee should be. I'd like to see how that calculation gets run. I think probably all of us would like to see how that calculation gets run. There was also a reference that alluded to table 1 that showed the fees. It's hard to understand how these changes work together if you're not seeing the whole document. There are no changes in section 15-128, which listed Director of Public Utilities multiple times. So I imagine we'd want to do the clerical updates there as well.
Yes, sir. I think back in 5176 or somewhere in here, I said something about some of these things, they like the title for the director, that is going to be changed throughout the chapter. I wasn't going to give you 62 pages of county code just for that. But so what you're looking for is more of an expansion of what's in the report here.
First step is a summary of the proposed changes. Why do we need to make a change? What are the options for changing? And what's your recommendation? For instance, on the availability fees and dividing up availability fees, why do we need to make a change? Because we're saying it's not very business friendly, and it was requested by the Board of Supervisors or the board as far as a business friendly initiative. Okay, so what are the proposed changes that you're recommending? And you outlined that, and then let the board discuss it. Mr. Wood brought up an idea, Mr. Pugh brought up an idea, and then we could decide what that policy should be. At that point, it gets crafted in code. But you've got to be able to see the changes in the context of the whole. For instance, there's another thing that one of the words I got hung up with was, this is in the service fee, in the section about the fees. That would be 129 maybe, availability charges. It wasn't there. So here's the example I was talking about earlier. $3,000 multiplied by the quotient of the estimated average daily water usage. What quotient is what you find when you divide two numbers. Average daily water usage is the number by itself, so I'm not sure what the quotient is supposed to be. But the other ones are, I'm bouncing between the codes here. Here it is. In 125 reserved, and then 128 as well. Both of those in section A define a term and defines where is it? The priority service area. That's a definition that's used again and again and again. So I think priority service area should be in the key definitions, like, because that's a big deal. Because if you live in the priority service area, you've got some obligations for connections. But you don't know what the priority service area is unless you read section A. And then we repeat it, and then since it's repeated multiple times, I think that's a standalone definition. So that's an example how we just look at the code and the whole context of the code. And then the breakout so that we understand the key policy changes that you wish to implement so that we can provide feedback, I think is critical before you go through the steps and process.
Okay, so you want an expanded report, maybe at the next board meeting.
Give us a PowerPoint presentation showing bulleted items and or tables outline. We don't need a dissertation.
Yeah, I have some reservations about some of these the water connection fees and what you explained to me. I don't want to get to the point where the fiscal integrity of the service authority is compromised through these changes. And it very well could be, if it's not done correctly. I don't think any of the other existing service authorities in the area waive fees or have a fee payment schedule. I think they, correct me if I'm wrong, but they provide it up front, when they're getting built. And so I just don't want to get to the point where we're messing with the financial integrity of the service authority, and it comes back onto the payers, the ratepayers.
I absolutely agree. I'll never do that.
Mr. Chair, I agree. I think it would be helpful if you possibly showed some different scenarios, with the old, with the current policy, with calls versus the new, so we get a better idea of how that might work.
I'll bring that back next board meeting.
All right, can we, we'll go ahead and move on to the mission statement.
Then we talked about the mission statement at a workshop, and we had a board member actually propose something, and sent it out to everybody. I went through and made suggestions for edits that I think are important. I don't remember hearing back from any of the board members. I don't remember seeing any more emails. And I didn't know whether this is something you want to actually make it adoption today. But I thought we should bring it up for discussion and see what everybody thought.
Board?
Well, I'll go first. I know that when it was rewritten, safe and reliable, it was implied that they were the same. I don't view those words as the same. When I think safe, it means when I turn on the faucet, I have water that I can drink. Reliable means when I actually turn on the faucet, I have water. And I think high quality is safe and reliable. Affordable, we cover in the most economical and efficient means. And sustainable is reliable to me, so. I'm fine with adding wastewater in there.
Yeah, I agree.
So, option one the one we're looking at? I mean, that's the one, or is it option two? I wasn't there, I don't really know.
I think Ms. Moore's commenting on option 2.
Okay,
You can see both of them are in option 2.
all right.
But I think a mission statement should be something that you can memorize and quote. If you add too many words in there, it gets all jumbled up and nobody remembers it.
So you're saying option one with the additional wastewater?
And I'm fine if somebody wants to add something about public health or economic growth, like that's in the vision statement though.
Right, the mission should kind of be to the point, right?
Yes, it shouldn't be too complicated.
So I should read.
Well, I like the comment about public health, that can be moved up into the latter part of the first sentence there. So service to our community and to protect public health and the natural environment.
Yeah, and the most economical and efficient means, yeah,
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
That's fine.
Oh,
So we're gonna add reliable water services and wastewater services to our community to protect the public health, the natural environment, and the most economical fishing means. Is that what we're saying?
Right, so it'd be reliable water
and
and wastewater service.
Or could it just be sewers? Wastewater sewers.
I think I don't know, as a standalone citizen, I think service authority, I think water, I don't think sewer necessarily.
A lot of customers do though.
I think we probably need to have wastewater.
Yeah.
Sounds better than sewers.
Yeah, just
More official.
water and wastewater, just I was like, well, we got water. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You can memorize it, you can spout it off to all you people.
Well, I guess we need to agree if is it safe and reliable or high quality, affordable and sustainable.
I was hearing consensus for safe, reliable water and wastewater services to our community and to protect the natural environment, public health, and public health in the most economical.
Sounds good to me.
Not to give away.
I think we'll put public health before natural.
That's fine, I'm sorry. I was just trying to get it.
Yeah, I think you nailed it though.
So,
Put in local economic growth or leave it out.
I'd leave that out in the mission statement.
And efficient means, period. So I'm gonna repeat that, is that right, Tom? And correct me if I'm wrong here. To provide safe, reliable water and, oh, did I leave one out? To provide safe, reliable water and wastewater services to our community and to protect, the public health and the natural environment in the most economic and efficient means. Here.
Okay.
well, that's a motion.
Oh, yes, it is, Mr. Chairman.
All right, a motion's on the table. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now let's go on to the logo.
Wait a minute, we got vision.
Oh,
Vision statement?
mission statement.
I guess I don't understand the difference between public health and enhanced quality of life. To me, they both mean the same.
Public health is protection against disease. Enhanced quality of life is being able to take a shower and get a drink of water from once.
Which would keep you free from disease.
I think they're a little bit different.
I think I'm fine with it as written in option 2 division.
Option two.
Isn't that's right, I'm right. I'm on the same sheet of paper that we were on before, so, where economic vitality and was struck, and the red lines were inserted.
I'm kind of confused where we are too. We're under vision under the second,
Option 2, vision.
to be acclaimed yeah. The respected leader providing clean water that fosters public health, enhanced quality of life, and economic vitality for our community. All right, are y'all okay with that?
Okay with that.
All right. Well, there's a motion on the floor to make this our vision statement. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Who made that motion?
I did. Here. So now we have to look at the values. Is that what we're doing next?
That's completely up to y'all. I just figured you do mission, vision, values all at one time.
I don't know that we really, do you all need to discuss the values? Is that, I mean, we can if you want.
I mean, I hate to be like the nice Sarah, but 90% of the people will never do this. Especially once you get to the values. That's just me. I guess I'm a cynic.
So just leave it as is?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I think values are important because that represents the community, what we perceive the community's values to be, what this board's values are, and then what we expect staff to hold true to those values. So it becomes a way to measure staff's implementation of the work.
I think it's a way that we're gonna operate. These are the values that we're operating under as we move forward.
Well, this is how we're gonna carry our mission and our vision.
That's what we're like, so I'm fine with the way they were originally drafted.
I'm fine with them, I mean, they're fine.
I don't know if there's any more that y'all think are important.
We can always amend.
No, sure.
Okay.
Or do we need a motion, or do we just, all right?
So the only change that was proposed was adding public health under service excellence, is that correct?
Well, I had a question about economic health being included under environmental stewardship. They didn't seem like they were the same thing.
Now, that's fiscal accountability, right?
All right. So you could move that down to fiscal accountability.
Well, you could just scratch the word economic and have natural beauty and health to our community.
That's good. I like that.
And that, and then everything else as proposed.
Is there a motion on the
I'll
floor?
make that motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are on to the Amherst County Service Authority logo.
And we talked about this at the workshop, and I was asked to bring this back to you all for the whole board to make a decision if they want to today is what they want to do with this.
And that's,
Well, I think it's just a copy in our packet that looks great, right? Because it was a blue.
yeah, that's just.
Well, if it showed up that way, I'm sorry, I've got a nice blue one myself.
So what,
That looks great too.
there's a bunch of different ones, but is there one y'all
No,
like?
this one, right?
Yeah, we picked that one.
This is the one that, sorry, you turned it on me.
You don't like them?
Yeah. And that was the one, it's the middle one on the top.
Okay.
The one with the white outline on the A.
Oh, yeah, okay. I kind of like the water drop. The water drop's a little bit different shape on it.
You were leaning toward bottom left, is that right, Tom?
Correct.
I'll see either one.
I can live with either one. I mean, you could just have a white outline on
Bottom left.
the bottom left, but if we're not wanting to have additional graphic work done on this. I can live with either.
I don't have a preference. I could live with either one. I mean, if that's the one we chose, if you all chose the one on the top middle, then that's fine with me as well.
Is that
Is that the
all, is that
consensus?
where y'all were at the meeting? I had to leave or not.
So, yeah, that was my pick, but I'd also be okay with the bottom left, and we added that white outline on the head, I don't think that'd be much of that. I thought Mr. Pugh was gonna be the deciding factor, I think we were split.
I don't think we're split. I think we're saying we can live with either.
Right.
So,
Well, yeah, I even like the one always to the left, but it's a whole lot of wording and stuff, with the A in the water drop. But if I had to pick between those two, I like the colors and the one in the top middle. I like the colors of that one better, than the one on the bottom left. I guess it's the white outlines, maybe the difference. And maybe the colors are a little different inside that A.
They are.
just the, it is not, for me.
Would you want to see the one, the bottom left with the A with the outline in it?
Well,
Bring that back next month.
I think we can picture it, what it would look like. I tell you what, I like that one. I like the one on the bottom left there with the outline, the white outline and the same colors.
Right, the exact same colors in the A on the bottom left.
Correct, so just put the A from the top middle on the bottom.
Yes. It gives you a little more texture, a little more to look at than the straight raindrop or whatever it is. The water drop.
Are you okay with it, Ms. Moore, or not?
But to be honest with you, I've heard different things about what that water drop looks like.
Yeah, I know, I said tire flaw or something, but,
But I've heard other things too.
So,
Huh?
okay, a tiger one?
no, no, they,
I've heard additional statements besides the qual.
I hope it's nothing too naughty.
I think the top center is a safe bet.
Yeah.
All right, well, okay, I'm fine with the top center. There you
I'm
go.
just saying, I think it's,
All right,
It's definitely defined as water drop up there.
fair enough. I'd make a motion that we adopt the top center as the new logo.
All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I got a question on that. Our seal is kind of plain Jane, and what I'd like to do is explore the possibility of getting our Service 40 seal redone with that logo in it. Is that something that you all would want me to do, or not?
which is the seal?
I'm sorry?
What is the seal?
Where's the seal now?
Right. All it is a circle that says Amherst County Service Authority in the middle.
Can we see it?
Oh, it just says ACSA in the middle and
What's the seal used for?
just on the
Documents, resolutions, whatever.
Is there a requirement to have a seal?
The only time that I know of that they require it is when you issue a bond.
Oh,
The
yeah,
buyer of the bond loses their mind if there's
I
not a
don't
seal.
care.
I don't think there's anything to read with that.
That's not.
Yeah, you already got the punch and everything.
not,
I mean,
Okay.
I think that's.
I'm fine with that.
I'll do this.
I don't know how long for that seal will.
All right, well, I guess we've decided on a new logo and, so, hallelujah. The next thing we'll go on to, I do like it. I think it looks good. It's a lot better than what we had, because it's plain Jane pretty much, so it is nice. Next, we'll go to miscellaneous matters.
Okay, just three quick things. We did have a staff resignation a couple weeks ago. One of our water operators at the plant left to take a job, similar job in Lexington. He's only the second operator resignation we've had in the last 5 years. I've got the vacancy advertised. We already have 3 applications in, and we'll be we're going to advertise it until fill. I'm talking to Glenn and Dale about filling the position. We're looking at the applications, doing interviews, and we will go from there.
Where else are you advertising?
Just the New Era Progress and the Times and Events, News and Events.
You've only got 3 applications, it's been running for over a week.
Well, that's pretty standard around here.
Well, have you considered using other job boards?
We actually sometimes use ZipRecruiter and Indeed. And we typically, when you're looking at something like that, you're talking about people that are not in the area, and people who are not in the area wanting jobs, they're going to be looking for relocation money. And if we can find, this is for an apprentice position. I'm figuring if we're just going to hire an apprentice, we're not going to pay to move people here, and we ought to be able to find people here that would fill this job. We've got 2 of the ones that we've got applications in are vets, and I think the board and the service supervisors have always taken the position of hiring locally. Let's keep our own people, our own citizens employed. So that's
How about the high school guidance counselors?
I haven't talked to them. Again, I'd rather hire a 25-year-old vet than an 18-year-old high school senior.
For an apprentice position.
I will say this, the circulation of the newspapers are dwindling. Not as many people use it. I think that it would be smart even, you can look at the applications, whether they're out of state or not. You could decide you don't want to look that way, but Indeed, you certainly will get local people looking at that, because that's one of the top used sites there is. I mean, that's, you know, when you go look for a job, that's one of the first places people usually go to is the internet search engines versus the newspaper.
I would even
Well,
say
they go.
you could use the county Facebook page.
Yeah, something like that would be good, or, I just think you gotta use the internet in some application.
I will tell you that when I go to look for a job, I do not go to the newspaper. That's the first place I go. Not that I'm looking for a job, no, I'm not.
No, but I mean, I went, my wife, you know, was looking for a job for a while, and that's where, you know, a lot of this, I would help her try to find something, that's where I would start, I'd look for, Indeed, Lynchburg jobs, or wherever the regional jobs, and that's kind of where I don't get the newspaper, I don't read the newspaper, and a lot of people don't anymore.
So what I'm hearing us say is expand how you're advertising.
Will do. Item number 2 is the transfer station water line extension. I just want to let you all know that was coming, that our crews will do that work. And I've gotten working with the county's project manager on that. We've done an agreement on the cost to install the water line and the water use data that we be used for the tap fees. And the last thing is just to let you all know that my evaluation for 2020 is coming up. I'm supposed to let you all know in February, and it's supposed to be done in April. So let me know, I'll be getting you information, the blank forms, and associated information over the next week.
I really appreciate the blank forms, that saves me a lot of legwork trying to print it off and look it up and all that, so I appreciate that. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to citizen comments. Is there any citizens wishing to speak? I see none. We'll go ahead and close citizen comments, and we'll go matters for members of the Service Authority Board. Mr. Moore? I mean, Mr. Moore. Mrs. Moore. Ms.
This
Moore?
here, right here.
Hey, you never know. You know,
I mean, your bill was long at one point. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to amend the agenda to add a closed session to discuss the performance of the director.
all right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Everybody, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? All right, we'll go ahead and Mr. Woods.
No comment.
Just, you know, hold on, we're right.
We amended the agenda.
We haven't voted to go into it.
We haven't voted to go into it yet. We're still under the matters for members of the
So I
service.
know, I understand. Yes, sir.
Do you have anything, Mr. Moore?
I just have a quick question. So, Mr. Hopkins, what procurement policies are you following when going out to do, you know, like, contracts, like for the website that you talked about? If it's over a certain amount, do you get free bids? Or?
Yes, we would follow the same, I work with David Profit, and we follow
So you are
the
working
county's
with-
procurement.
Okay, all right. No problem.
All right, I have nothing. Do you have the motion?
I do. I move to enter a closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711 subsection A1 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for the purpose of discussion or consideration of the performance of specific officers, appointees, or employees of the service authority, specifically relating to the executive director's performance review.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We're in the closed session. The motion to come out of closed session.
I move to return to open session.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move to certify by roll call vote pursuant to section 2.2-3712 subsection D of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirement of FOIA, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion to convene the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Moore,
Aye.
Woods, Farrar,
Aye.
Martin, Pugh, aye. All right, now we just need a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.